Hello and welcome to the next episode of my channel where I'll be taking up a lesson from class 10th, that is Long Walk to Freedom. Now this chapter is very important as it has some lines which might be very confusing and a little difficult to comprehend or understand. So please pay attention. So Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president. Okay, he was the head of the African National Congress and was greatly inspired by Gandhiji in many ways. So this chapter is based upon the inauguration ceremony which took place in the Union Buildings Amphitheatre in Pretoria. So the chapter is based on the day the inauguration ceremony took place, in which around 140 countries around the world had participated, and because people from different nationalities were present there, it looked like a collection of various rainbow colored people sitting together. So the inauguration took place on the 10th of May, and this chapter is written in first person. This chapter is written in the lines of spoken by Nelson Mandela. According to him, for the past few days, he had been completely besieged. Besieged means surrounded by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect. So people from all over the world were coming to him to pay their respect and pay their, tribute to this newly formed country. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders. So it was a kind of the largest gathering of people, leaders all over the world. The ceremonies, as I said, was taking place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Now the same building had been occupied by the whites for so many years, and now it was the site of a rainbow gathering. What do we mean by rainbow gathering? People from various cultures, countries had come to this place to witness this inauguration in their various, different attires. So it seemed like a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic and such a government which did not believe in non-racial policies. So it was a huge event on that lovely autumn day. Now, why did the narrator say autumn day when the ceremony was taking place on the 10th of May? Now, there are two reasons for this. First reason, because South Africa comes in the southern hemisphere, so in autumn they have, in May they have autumn. And the second thing is, autumn signifies shedding of old leaves and coming out of new leaves. So here autumn day, because an old regime which was racial in his belief was being thrown out and a new power which was non-racial was coming in power. So that day on the podium, he was accompanied by his daughter Zenani. On the podium, there were other deputy and second deputy and first deputy president ready with him to take the oath. And when it was his turn, he pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and devote himself to the well-being of this republic. To the people he said, "Today all of us do by our presence here confer glory and hope to newborn liberty." So he took a pledge that after so many years we have got independence, and now we are going to revive this nation from the extraordinary human disaster. Human disaster over here means racialism, apartheid, which they had suffered for too long. So he was taking a pledge that we have to revive such a wounded country from this human disaster which they had suffered. We, who were outlaws not so long, have today been given the rare privilege to be the host to the nations of the world on our own soil. What does it mean? For so many years, these people, Nelson Mandela and his group and all the blacks, they were considered to be the law breakers under the policy of apartheid. But today, they are the law makers, and they have got this privilege to host so many nations of the world on their soil. So he thanked each and every one, each and every guest who were present there to witness this ceremony. And according to him, it was a common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. According to Nelson Mandela, at last they had received their political emancipation. Emancipation means freedom, all kind of political freedom. They could rule their country in their own way, in the correct way. And he pledged to liberate all the people from poverty, any kind of deprivation or any kind of suffering, any kind of discrimination. And he promised that never shall that beautiful land ever experience such an oppression again. And the sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement means he would try his best. He's taking a pledge that never ever Africa would have to see dark days again, bad days again. So let freedom reign. God bless Africa. A few moments later, when they all lifted their eyes, they could see many helicopters and troops carriers which, performed all kind of formation in front of the Union building. It was not only a display of the military force, but a kind of, demonstration of the military's loyalty. It was a kind of pledge by the military that they would be loyal to the democracy and to the new government. But according to Nelson Mandela, only few days ago, if these people, if these military people who, whose chests were decked with ribbons and medals, the same people who were saluting him right now, only few days ago, if they would have seen him, they would have arrested him. They would have arrested him at sight. But now the things are different. Now Nelson Mandela and all the blacks are the lawmakers. So finally they were able to see a V pattern of the Impala jets, that is the planes, in the sky, making the South African flag, displaying black, red, green, blue and gold of the flag in the sky. Now this day was also very special because the people there sang two national anthems. Now the first national anthem was the anthem of the whites. Okay, that was Die Stem. And the second national anthem was of the newly formed South Africa, formed by the blacks, that was Kosi Sikelel I Africa. Now what was so special? The whites were singing the national anthem formed by the blacks, and the blacks were singing the old anthem of the whites. So even though they did not know the lyrics of each other, but they were trying to sing. So this was something to win, enough to win anyone's heart. They were trying to be together. So on the day of inauguration, Nelson Mandela was overwhelmed with a sense of history. He remembers the first 10 decades, the first 10 years of the 20th century, which during the time when Africa suffered the Anglo-Boer War, that was before his birth, and how the white-skinned people of South Africa came together and they formed a system of racial discrimination against the dark-skinned people of their own land, because of which Africa had to suffer the harshest and the most inhuman torture and behavior in their society. And now in the last decade of the 20th century, now 20th century means year starting with 2019. So the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade. So the year is maybe 1990, the last decade of the 20th century, and Nelson Mandela is 80 years something. The system had been overturned. What system has been overturned? The system of apartheid and racial discrimination has been overturned forever and has been replaced by one system that recognizes rights and freedoms of all the people, regardless of the color of their skin. So I hope you have understood this much. I'm going to take this part of the lesson in this video, and the second part, the remaining part, I'll be taking up in the next part. Thank you, and do like the video.